a WikiVidi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Islamic calendar. The Islamic, Muslim, or Hijri calendar is a lunar calendar consisting of 12 months in a year of 354 or 355 days. It is used to date events in many Muslim countries. It is also used by Muslims to determine the proper days of Islamic holidays and rituals, such as the annual period of fasting and the proper time for the pilgrimage to Mecca. The Islamic calendar employs the Hijri era, whose epoch was retrospectively established as the Islamic New Year of AD 622. During that year, Muhammad and his followers migrated from Mecca to Yathrib and established the first Muslim community, an event commemorated as the Hijra. In the West, dates in this era are usually denoted R in parallel with the Christian and Jewish eras. In Muslim countries, it is also sometimes denoted as H from its Arabic form. In English, years prior to the Hijra are reckoned as BH. The current Islamic year is 1439 R. In the Gregorian calendar, 1439 R runs from approximately the 21st of September 2017 to the 10th of September 2018. Pre-Islamic calendar. For Central Arabia, especially Mecca, there is a lack of epigraphical evidence, but details are found in the writings of Muslim authors of the Abbasid era. Inscriptions of the ancient South Arabian calendars reveal the use of a number of local calendars. At least some of these South Arabian calendars followed the lunisolar system. Both al-Biruni and al-Masudi suggest that the ancient Arabs used the same month names as the Muslims, though they also record other month names used by the pre-Islamic Arabs. The Islamic tradition is unanimous in stating that Arabs of Tihama, Hejaz, and Najd distinguished between two types of months, permitted and forbidden months. The forbidden months were 4 months during which fighting is forbidden, listed as Rajab, and the 3 months around the pilgrimage season, Dhu al-Qa'dah, Dhu al-Hijja, and Muharram. Information about the forbidden months is also found in the writings of Procopius, where he describes an armistice with the Eastern Arabs of the Lake Mid al-Munda which happened in the summer of 541 AD. However, Muslim historians do not link these months to a particular season. The Quran links the 4 forbidden months with Nasī, a word that literally means postponement. According to Muslim tradition, the decision of postponement was administered by the tribe of Kinana, by a man known as the Al-Kalamas of Kinana and his descendants. Different interpretations of the concept of Nasī have been proposed. Some scholars, both Muslim and Western, maintain that the pre-Islamic calendar used in Central Arabia was a purely lunar calendar similar to the modern Islamic calendar. According to this view, Nasī is related to the pre-Islamic practices of the Meccan Arabs, where they would alter the distribution of the forbidden months within a given year without implying a calendar manipulation. This interpretation is supported by Arab historians and lexicographers, like Ibn Hisham, Ibn Manzur, and the corpus of Quranic exegesis. This is corroborated by an early Sabaic inscription, where a religious ritual was postponed due to war. According to the context of this inscription, the verb ns has nothing to do with intercalation, but only with moving religious events within the calendar itself. The similarity between the religious concept of this ancient inscription and the Quran suggests that non-calendaring postponement is also the Quranic meaning of Nasī. Thus the Encyclopedia of Islam concludes, the Arabic system of Nasī can only have been intended to move the Hajj and the fairs associated with it in the vicinity of Mecca to a suitable season of the year. It was not intended to establish a fixed calendar to be generally observed. Others concur that it was originally a lunar calendar, but suggest that about 200 years before the Hijra it was transformed into a lunisolar calendar containing an intercalary month added from time to time to keep the pilgrimage within the season of the year when merchandise was most abundant. This interpretation was first proposed by the medieval Muslim astrologer and astronomer Abu Mashar al-Balkhi, and later by al-Biruni, al-Masudi, and some Western scholars. This interpretation considers Nasī to be a synonym to the Arabic word for intercalation. The Arabs, according to one explanation mentioned by Abu Mashar, learned of this type of intercalation from the Jews. The Jewish Nasī was the official who decided when to intercalate the Jewish calendar. Some sources say that the Arabs followed the Jewish practice and intercalated 7 months over 19 years, or else that they intercalated 9 months over 24 years. There is, however, no consensus among scholars on this issue.
Prohibiting Nasī.
In the 10th year of the Hijra, as documented in the Quran, 36:37, Muslims believe God revealed the prohibition of the Nasī. The prohibition of Nasī would presumably have been announced when the intercalated month had returned to its position just before the month of Nasī began. If Nasī meant intercalation, then the number and the position of the intercalary months between 1R and 10R are uncertain. Western calendar dates commonly cited for key events in early Islam such as the Hijra, the Battle of Badr, the Battle of Uhud and the Battle of the Trench, should be viewed with caution as they might be in error by 1, 2 or even 3 lunar months. This prohibition was mentioned by Muhammad during the farewell sermon which was delivered on 9 Dhul-Hijjah 10R on Mount Arafat during the farewell pilgrimage to Mecca. The 3 successive sacred months mentioned by Prophet Muhammad are Dhul-Qa'dah, Dhul-Hijjah, and Muharram, months 11, 12, and 1 respectively. The single forbidden month is Rajab, month 7. These months were considered forbidden both within the new Islamic calendar and within the old pagan Meccan calendar. Months. 4 of the 12 Hijri months are considered sacred, Rajab, and the 3 consecutive months of Dhul-Qa'dah, Dhul-Hijjah and Muharram, as the lunar calendar lags behind the solar calendar by about 10 days every Gregorian year. Months of the Islamic calendar fall in different parts of the Gregorian calendar each year. The cycle repeats every 33 lunar years. Length of months. Each month of the Islamic calendar commences on the birth of the new lunar cycle. Traditionally, this is based on actual observation of the crescent marking the end of the previous lunar cycle and hence the previous month, thereby beginning the new month. Consequently, each month can have 29 or 30 days depending on the visibility of the moon, astronomical positioning of the Earth and weather conditions. However, certain sects and groups, most notably Bohras Muslims namely Alavis, Tawhidis, and Sulaymanis and Shia Ismaili Muslims, use a tabular Islamic calendar in which odd-numbered months have 30 days and even months have 29 days of the week. In Arabic, the first day of the week corresponds with Sunday of the planetary week. The Islamic weekdays, like those in the Hebrew and Bahá'í calendars, begin at sunset. The Christian liturgical day, kept in monasteries, begins with Vespers, which is evening, in line with the other Abrahamic traditions. Christian and planetary weekdays begin at the following midnight. Muslims gather for worship at a mosque at noon on Gathering Day, which corresponds with Friday. Thus, Gathering Day is often regarded as the weekly day of rest. This is frequently made official, with many Muslim countries adopting Friday and Saturday or Thursday and Friday as official weekends, during which offices are closed. Other countries choose to make Friday alone a day of rest. A few others have adopted the Saturday-Sunday weekend while making Friday a working day with a long midday break to allow time off for worship. Year numbering. In pre-Islamic Arabia, it was customary to identify a year after a major event which took place in it. Thus, according to Islamic tradition, Abraha, governor of Yemen, then a province of the Christian kingdom of Aksum, attempted to destroy the Kaaba with an army which included several elephants. The raid was unsuccessful, but that year became known as the Year of the Elephant, during which Muhammad was born. Most equate this to the year AD 570, but a minority use AD 571. The first 10 years of the Hijra were not numbered, but were named after events in the life of Muhammad according to Abu Rayyan al-Biruni. In AD 638, Abu Musa Ash'ari, one of the officials of the Caliph Umar in Basra, complained about the absence of any years on the correspondence he received from Umar, making it difficult for him to determine which instructions were most recent. This report convinced Umar of the need to introduce an era for Muslims. After debating the issue with his counselors, he decided that the first year should include the date of Muhammad's arrival at Medina. Uthman ibn Affan then suggested that the months begin with Muharram, in line with the established custom of the Arabs at that time. The years of the Islamic calendar thus began with the month of Muharram in the year of Muhammad's arrival at the city of Medina. Even though the actual emigration took place in Safar and Rabi'i because of the Hijra, the calendar was named the Hijra calendar. The first day of the first month of the Islamic calendar was set to the first new moon after the day the Prophet moved from Cuba to Medina, i.e., Friday, the 16th of July AD 622, the equivalent civil tabular date in the Julian calendar. The Islamic day began at the preceding sunset on the evening of the 15th of July. This Julian date was determined by medieval Muslim astronomers by projecting back in time their own tabular Islamic calendar, which had alternating 30 and 29-day months in each lunar year plus 11 leap days every 30 years. For example, Al-Biruni mentioned this Julian date in the year AD 1000, although not used by either medieval Muslim astronomers or modern scholars to determine the Islamic epoch. The thin crescent moon would have also first become visible shortly after the preceding sunset on the evening of the 15th of July. 1.5 days after the associated dark moon on the morning of the 14th of July. Though Cook and Crone in Hagerism, the making of the Islamic world cite a coin from 17R, the first surviving attested use of a Hijri calendar date alongside a date in another calendar is on a papyrus from Egypt in 22R, perf 558. Astronomical considerations. Due to the fact that the Islamic calendar relies on certain variable methods of observation which are used to determine its month start dates, the start dates of its months sometimes vary slightly from the month start dates of the astronomical lunar calendar, which are based directly on astronomical calculations. Still, the Islamic calendar seldom varies by more than 3 days from the astronomical lunar calendar system, and roughly approximates it. Both the Islamic calendar and the astronomical lunar calendar take no account of the solar year in their calculations, and thus both of these strictly lunar-based calendar systems have no ability to reckon the timing of the 4 seasons of the year. In the astronomical lunar calendar system, a year of 12 lunar months is 354.37 days long. In this calendar system, lunar months begin precisely at the time of the monthly conjunction, when the moon is located most directly between the Earth and the Sun. The month is defined as the average duration of a revolution of the moon around the Earth. By convention, months of 30 days and 29 days succeed each other, adding up over 2 successive months to 59 full days. This leaves only a small monthly variation of 44 minutes to account for, which adds up to a total of 24 hours in 2.73 years. To settle accounts, it is sufficient to add 1 day every 3 years to the lunar calendar, in the same way that one adds 1 day to the Gregorian calendar every 4 years. The technical details of the adjustment are described in tabular Islamic calendar. The Islamic calendar, however, is based on a different set of conventions being used for the determination of the month start dates. Each month still has either 29 or 30 days, but due to the variable method of observations employed, there is usually in no discernible order in the sequencing of either 29 or 30-day month lengths. Traditionally, the first day of each month is the day of the first sighting of the hilal shortly after sunset. If the hilal is not observed immediately after the 29th day of a month, then the day that begins at that sunset is the 30th. Such a sighting has to be made by one or more trustworthy men testifying before a committee of Muslim leaders. Determining the most likely day that the hilal could be observed was a motivation for Muslim interest in astronomy, which put Islam in the forefront of that science for many centuries. Still, due to the fact that both lunar reckoning systems are ultimately based on the lunar cycle itself, both systems still do roughly correspond to one another, never being more than 3 days out of sync with one another. This traditional practice for the determination of the start date of the month is still followed in the overwhelming majority of Muslim countries. Each Islamic state proceeds with its own monthly observation of the new moon before declaring the beginning of a new month on its territory. But the lunar crescent becomes visible only some 17 hours after the conjunction, and only subject to the existence of a number of favorable conditions relative to weather, time, geographic location, as well as various astronomical parameters. Given the fact that the moon sets progressively later than the sun as one goes west, with a corresponding increase in its age since conjunction, Western Muslim countries may, under favorable conditions, observe the new moon 1 day earlier than Eastern Muslim countries. Due to the interplay of all these factors, the beginning of each month differs from one Muslim country to another. During the 48-hour period following the conjunction, the information provided by the calendar in any country does not extend beyond the current month. A number of Muslim countries try to overcome some of these difficulties by applying different astronomy-related rules to determine the beginning of months. Thus, Malaysia,
Indonesia,
and a few others begin each month
at sunset on the first day that the moon sets
after the sun. In Egypt, the month begins at sunset on the first day that the moon sets,
at least 5 minutes after the sun.
A detailed analysis of the available data shows, however,
that there are major discrepancies between what countries say they do on this subject, and what they actually do.
In some instances,
what a country says it does is impossible.
Due to the somewhat variable nature of the Islamic calendar, in most Muslim countries, the Islamic calendar is used primarily for religious purposes, while the solar-based Gregorian calendar is still used primarily for matters of commerce and agriculture. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?